Daylight was harsh that afternoon, the kind of bright, golden sunlight that made normal people feel safe, and made men like Dante Morelli feel exposed. His black SUV rolled to a slow stop at the edge of a quiet neighborhood street. The area looked peaceful, too peaceful for someone with his history. Children's bicycles lay in small front yards, wind chimes danced in the warm breeze, and two neighbors chatted near a rose garden as if danger didn't exist in their world at all. But Dante knew better. Danger always existed. It just waited for the right moment to show itself. He stepped out of the SUV, the door shutting with a heavy thud. He wore a charcoal suit, crisp and immaculate, but his eyes carried a lifetime of shadows. He didn't come here often. In fact, he avoided this part of the city like a curse. He only arrived today because he had business at a house around the corner. Business that involved warnings, quiet threats, and letting a certain man know that debts must be paid. But before he could take even 2 steps, something made him stop. A small figure sat alone on the curb across the street, thin legs dangling, worn sneakers tapping the air. A little boy, no older than 6 or 7, with soft brown hair and a faded blue t-shirt that looked a size too big. The boy wasn't playing. He wasn't looking at the ground. He wasn't scared. He was staring directly at Dante, unblinking, steady, almost recognizing. Dandy's heartbeat changed, slowing, tightening, as if someone had reached into his chest and squeezed. Kids didn't look at him like that. Kids usually avoided him, hid behind their parents, or crossed the street when his men came near. But this boy looked at him with calm curiosity, and something stranger, something like trust. Dante frowned slightly and turned away, forcing himself to walk toward his destination. He didn't have time for strange children staring at him. He had a schedule, a warning to deliver, things to control. And yet, the sound of soft footsteps behind him made him pause. He turned. The boy was now standing only a few feet away from him. He had a small superhero lunchbox clutched in one hand, the metal corner slightly bent as if it had been dropped many times. The boy tilted his head, studying Dante carefully. "You're tall," he said softly. Dante blinked. "You shouldn't walk up to strangers, kid." The boy didn't move, didn't even flinch. Instead, he lifted the lunchbox and hugged it to his chest like it was armor. "My mom says you kill monsters." Just like that. No fear, no hesitation, just a simple truth spoken in daylight. Dandy's breath froze mid-chest. Of all the words a child could throw at him, those were the last ones he expected. The world around them seemed to quiet. Even the distant lawnmower stopped, leaving nothing but the soft hum of wind. Dandy's voice came out low, rough. "Your mom said what?" The boy nodded, his eyes wide and serious. "She said there's a man in a black car who kills monsters so they don't hurt people anymore." He swallowed hard. "She said he has sad eyes, but he's not bad." Dante's jaw clenched. Sad eyes. Not bad. He looked away, not because he wanted to, but because something inside him twisted violently. A memory he didn't want. A face he'd buried years ago. A truth he couldn't let himself feel. He took a slow breath, steadying himself. "You got the wrong person, kid." The boy stepped closer. "No, I don't." Dante stared down at him, this small stranger who somehow spoke words sharper than bullets. "What's your name?" Dante asked quietly. "Eli." The boy answered. "What's yours?" Dante hesitated, something he never did. "T. Dante." The boy smiled a little, as if the name meant something comforting. "Are you here because of me?" Eli asked. Dante actually took a step back. "Why would I be here because of you?" Eli looked down, kicking a pebble with his shoe. "Because Mom keeps saying monsters are coming back. She got scared today. She told me to stay outside where it's bright." His voice shook slightly. "She told me she hoped the man who kills monsters would show up." Dandy's stomach tightened. There was a tremble in the boy's words, a shadow behind them. Something wasn't right. "Where's your mother now?" Dante asked. Eli opened his mouth to answer, but something else caught Dante's attention. A car. A gray sedan turning onto the street, slow, too slow, like a shark gliding through calm water. Its windows were darker than they should be. Its engine too quiet. Its pace too careful. Dante's instincts snapped awake. Every nerve in his body screamed the same warning. Fret! Without thinking, he reached out and pulled Eli gently behind his leg, shielding him with his body. Eli didn't protest. He simply pressed closer, gripping Dante's suit jacket like it was the safest place in the world. The sedan crept nearer. Dante watched, analyzing everything: the angle of the tires, the weight of the vehicle, the way the driver's silhouette leaned forward as if trying to get a clear look. He had seen that kind of behavior many times. Surveillance, targeting, hunting, and worst of all, recognition. The car slowed even more as it approached them. Dante's breathing dropped into a calm, lethal rhythm. Eli whispered, Is that a monster?" Dante didn't answer. He didn't take his eyes off the car. The window on the driver's side rolled down. Only a few inches. Just enough. The driver leaned forward, and for a moment, Dante's world stopped. The face he saw was one he thought he would never see again. A ghost from the darkest part of his past. A man he remembered burying. A man who should not be alive. His blood ran cold. Eli felt Dante's body tense and whispered, trembling now, "Do you know him?" Dante's voice dropped to a whisper so low it barely existed. Yes. His eyes were locked on the man inside the car, and that man was smiling. A slow, cruel, knowing smile. The kind that promised danger. The kind that meant trouble had finally found him. And maybe the boy, too. The sedan drove past them, turning the corner, disappearing from sight. But its message was clear. He had been found. After years of hiding the last piece of his humanity, his past was coming back for it. Dante placed a hand on Ellie's shoulder, steadying him. "Eli, where's your mom?" he asked again, this time with urgency. Eli lifted a shaky finger and pointed toward a small apartment building at the far end of the street. Dante nodded slowly. "Okay," he whispered. "We're going to her. Stay close. Don't let go of me." Eli nodded and gripped his jacket tighter. As they walked toward the building, Dante's mind raced with questions he wasn't ready to face. Why did that man know about the boy? Why was he watching this street? Why today? Why now? And most terrifying of all, why did Ellie's mother tell her son stories about him, the man who kills monsters? What did she know? Who was she? And how much danger were they already in? The sunlight stayed bright and warm on their backs, but Dante felt darkness gathering behind them, silent, patient, and hungry. Something big was coming. He could feel it. And as Eli walked beside him, trusting him with every frightened step, Dante understood one thing clearly. He was no longer a spectator in this quiet neighborhood. He had been pulled into something personal, too personal. A story he thought ended years ago had just started again. The apartment building at the end of the street looked ordinary: cracked walls, faded paint, a faint smell of laundry soap and dust. From the outside, nothing hinted at the danger or the secrets hidden within. But Dante Morelli, a man who had seen the darkest sides of humanity, knew better. Danger rarely wore a warning sign. Eli tugged at Dante's hand as they approached the rusted gate leading to the narrow stairwell. "She's in apartment 4B, the boy whispered. His voice trembled slightly, betraying the calm he had tried to maintain on the street. Dante nodded silently, every sense alert. His eyes scanned the surroundings, each window, every shadow, the quiet hum of distant traffic. The world looked normal, almost too normal. But Dante had learned the hard way. Appearances were always deceiving. He gripped Ellie's shoulder gently and whispered, "Stay close to me. No sudden moves." The little boy nodded, holding on tighter. The stairs creaked as they climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from the weight of their bodies, but from the tension that hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Dante could feel it in his bones. This wasn't just a casual reunion. Something had changed. Something had shifted in the universe that he had tried so hard to control. Finally, They reached the door. Dante paused, hand hovering over the handle. He didn't knock. He didn't need to. He knew the woman behind it would know him the moment she heard his voice. He opened the door slowly. Inside, the apartment was small, dimly lit by sunlight filtering through dusty curtains. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and medicine. On a worn couch in the center of the room lay a woman, her hair tangled, her face pale and drawn. She coughed softly, a fragile sound that seemed impossibly human compared to the chaos Dante had lived in for years. And then she opened her eyes. Dante froze. It was Maya, the only woman who had ever broken through the walls he had built around himself. The only woman who had ever made him want a life he didn't deserve. Time seemed to slow. He saw every line on her face, every shadow beneath her eyes, every scar left by worry and sickness. She looked up at him, confusion and fear mixing in her gaze. Dante, she whispered, her voice trembling. You shouldn't be here. He stepped inside, keeping his eyes locked on hers. I need to know where Eli is, he said softly. Her eyes widened. You know? Dandy's throat tightened. I know he's your son. I, I didn't know. The words felt heavy, even to him. He had spent years avoiding responsibilities, avoiding the consequences of his own choices, and now he faced the one he had been running from all along. Maya's lips quivered. I kept it hidden. For his safety. I thought if you didn't know, you'd stay away, and he'd be safe. Dandy's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct in his body told him to leave, to run. But Ellie's small hand still gripped his jacket, reminding him that running was no longer an option. Safe? He repeated, his voice low and dangerous. Do you think he's safe with that man out there? Maya's gaze fell. She coughed again, weakly. Rico. He's coming. He knows now. He's going to come for Eli first. Dante's stomach twisted. Rico. A ghost from his past. A man he thought he had buried along with the life he once lived. And now, that ghost had found his son. Eli looked up at him, eyes wide, innocence shining in the midst of fear. Rico? Who's that? Dante knelt down to Ellie's level, his expression hard but controlled. Someone dangerous, he said quietly. Someone who wants to hurt people we care about. The boy's small hand pressed against Dandy's arm. You won't let him hurt me, right? Dante swallowed hard. He wanted to reassure the boy, to promise him the world, but the truth weighed heavily on his chest. I may not be the man you think I am, Eli. His mind drifted back to the moments he had left Maya behind, the nights he had chosen business over family, power over love. Every past decision screamed at him now. He had failed her once. He could not fail them again. Listen to me, Dante said, voice steady despite the storm raging inside. I won't let anything happen to you. Not to you. Not to your mother. I promise. Maya's eyes softened, but a shadow of doubt lingered. Dante, you've promised many things before, but promises don't protect them from what's coming. Dante's jaw tightened. She was right, of course. Promises were fragile. Actions were everything. And now, the only action that mattered was survival. He looked at Eli again. You need to stay close to me, Eli. No matter what happens, you listen, and you don't run. Eli nodded solemnly, as if he understood the gravity of the words better than Dante ever could. For a brief moment, the apartment was quiet. The faint sunlight danced across the floor, illuminating dust particles that floated lazily in the air. It looked peaceful, safe, almost normal. But Dante knew it wasn't. He could feel it, a presence outside, waiting, calculating, observing. The same presence that had sent shivers down his spine on the street. He moved to the window, drawing the curtain just slightly, peeking out without revealing himself. Shadows shifted across the pavement below. Too many eyes, too many hands. Rico's men had already found the area. They were close. His mind raced. He had dealt with threats before, taken out enemies, handled situations that would crush ordinary men. But this was different. This wasn't about power or territory. This was personal. This was about protecting something he had almost destroyed, his own blood. Maya's weak voice broke through his thoughts. Dante, you can't do this alone. He turned, meeting her gaze. The truth was clear in both of their eyes. The life he had led, the man he had been, could never face what was coming without help. And yet, calling on his men was dangerous. They could be watched. Every move was a potential trap. Eli tugged on his sleeve again, sensing the tension. Daddy, are we going to be okay? Dante froze. The word daddy struck him like a physical blow. He had spent years denying even the thought, fearing the responsibility, fearing the weakness it might bring. And now, it was here, right in front of him. Yes, he whispered, trying to believe it himself. We're going to be okay. I'll make sure of it. But deep down, he knew the road ahead was anything but certain. The sun might be shining outside, but the shadows were closing in. A sudden noise made him spin toward the door, a faint click, almost inaudible. Someone was trying the lock. Dante's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed Eli, pulling him behind the couch, and positioned himself between them and the door. Maya's weak cough echoed in the small apartment. Dante, be careful. The door handle rattled. Then silence. Then a soft, deliberate knock. Dante's eyes narrowed. Rico's warning. He didn't need to hear the voice to know whose hands had touched that handle. The predator had arrived. He looked down at Eli. The boy's eyes were wide, fear mingling with trust, waiting for the man who had been a stranger just minutes ago to become a protector. Dante drew in a slow, measured breath. This was the moment that would define him. Not the past. Not the enemies he had made. Not the darkness he had lived in. This was about saving what he had failed to protect before. His chance to finally do the right thing. But as the handle began to turn slowly, the apartment fell silent again. Dante's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed danger. Every muscle tensed for the fight he knew was inevitable. And outside the door, someone whispered, just enough for the shadows to hear. You left one for me to find. Dante's heart sank. This was no longer just about him. This was about survival. And failure was not an option. The apartment was quiet now. Too quiet. The sunlight from the window slanted across the floor, falling in golden strips that danced lazily in the dust. But Dante Morelli knew better. Light didn't matter here. Shadows didn't need darkness. The monsters he had tried to bury were already at the threshold. He stood over Eli, who clung to Maya like a fragile shield against the world. The boy's small fingers pressed into Dante's jacket. Every instinct screamed, protect. Every muscle tensed like a coiled spring. Then, the handle rattled again. Not a soft knock. Not a mistake. A deliberate, calculated movement. Someone wanted in. Dante's heart sank, but his face stayed calm. His hands went to the table, gathering the nearest objects, anything that could be a weapon. He couldn't risk giving away the apartment's layout or his panic. That would be the first mistake. Stay behind me, he whispered to Eli, who pressed closer without a word. Maya's weak cough broke the tension. Dante, I can't. He cut her off gently, but firmly. I know. Just trust me. This isn't your fight. The doorknob turned slowly, almost teasingly. Then came a shadow, a glimpse of a boot. They're here. Dante slid behind the couch with Eli in his arms, positioning himself so that any threat would have to pass through him first. And then they came. 3 men burst through the door. Not loud, not clumsy. Professional. Trained. Armed. Faces masked by black balaclavas, guns raised. Time slowed. Dante's mind raced. He had handled gunmen before, countless times, but never like this. Never with a child, never with someone he had failed to protect standing right here. The first man moved toward Maya. Dante lunged. A single, precise motion. He shoved the attacker into the wall, breaking his balance. The gun went off, ricocheting with a deafening crack. Eli cried out. Maya shrieked. Dante didn't look back. His life, his instincts, his entire existence had been built for this. Surviving, fighting, eliminating threats. But today, it wasn't just survival. It was defense, protection, love. He grabbed the second man, twisting his wrist until the gun clattered to the floor. A sharp kick to the stomach sent him sprawling. The third man, however, was faster. He swung his weapon. Dante barely blocked it. Metal met metal. Sparks flew. Heart pounding, every sense heightened. Eli trembled. Daddy. The word hit Dante like a blow. Daddy! He had never imagined hearing it directed at him. Not like this. Not in a life filled with blood and shadows. He blocked another swing and caught the man by the arm, throwing him across the room. The crash echoed against the walls. The world narrowed. Only the immediate danger existed. Only the people in this room mattered. And yet, Dante's mind flickered to Rico. He knew this attack was just a taste, a warning. The real monster was still out there. He glanced at Maya. She was pale, coughing violently, trying to get up. He pulled her back gently. Stay down, he commanded, his voice soft but firm. I've got this. Eli pressed himself against the couch, wide-eyed, heart racing. Dante gave him a small nod, the only reassurance he could manage. We survived together, he thought. That's all that matters right now. Minutes, or maybe seconds, passed. Every sound magnified. Every movement, every creak of the floorboard, felt like it could be their last. Dante fought with precision, instinct, and raw emotion. He couldn't afford mistakes. Not today. Finally, the last attacker went down, sprawled across the floor, groaning. Dante's chest heaved, sweat running down his temple. He turned to check on Eli and Maya. Eli was staring at him, wide-eyed, a mix of awe and fear. Maya's hand was trembling as she reached for his arm. Dante. You, she whispered. Her voice cracked. You're still here. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence said more than words ever could. But the relief was short-lived. A faint click echoed from the window. Dante's head snapped toward it. Too quiet to be coincidence. Too deliberate to be anything else. Then he saw it. A figure slipping into the alley outside. Watching. Waiting. A shadow among shadows. Dante's chest tightened. His instincts screamed again. Rico's warning. They weren't done. This was just the beginning. He grabbed Ellie's hand. We're moving. Now. Eli hesitated. But the sunlight. Dante shook his head. It doesn't matter. Safety is inside shadows today. Maya coughed again, her frailty evident. You're leaving me? No, Dante said firmly. I'm bringing you both with me. Alive. That's the only way. They slipped through the back door, careful to avoid the main street. Dante led them through narrow alleys, keeping to shadows, every step measured, calculated. He knew they were being watched. He knew every turn could lead them into a trap. Eli clung to him the entire way, his small hand gripping Dante's jacket as if it were armor. Are they monsters too? The boy asked softly. Dante's lips pressed into a thin line. Some of them are. Some of them are just lost people who think hurting others will make them strong. The boy's voice was barely audible. Like you? Dante froze. The word struck deeper than any punch or bullet ever could. He swallowed. Am I a monster? He thought. Is this what I've been hiding from him all along? He forced a calm voice. No, Eli. Not anymore. Today. I'm only here to stop monsters. They reached a safer corner of the city, a place Dante had scouted earlier. Empty streets, the hum of distant traffic, sunlight cutting through the gaps between buildings. He paused, crouching down to Ellie's level. You need to stay behind me at all times, understand? Eli nodded. I trust you. The words warmed Dante in a way he hadn't felt in years. Trust. A little boy's trust was a weight heavier than any bullet, more dangerous than any enemy. But as Dante helped Maya climb over the last obstacle to their temporary hideout, a shadow flickered at the edge of the street. He froze. Movement. Too smooth to be random. Too deliberate to be coincidence. Someone was watching them. Dante's blood ran cold, even in the bright daylight. He whispered to Eli, "Stay down. Don't move. And whatever happens, remember what I told you." The shadow didn't move, just waited, watching, calculating. Dante's mind raced. He had survived ambushes, assassins, and betrayals. He had killed monsters before. But something about today, about this boy, this woman, and this moment, made every fight feel personal, every threat more dangerous. Because this wasn't just about territory, power, or revenge. This was about family, his failure, his chance to protect the ones he loved. And the monsters outside the door? They weren't finished. Dante led Eli and Maya through the twisting alleys until they reached a small, abandoned warehouse he had used as a safe house before. The sunlight fell harshly across the concrete floor, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out for them. It felt safe, at least for now, but Dante knew better. Safety was temporary. Danger was patient. Maya collapsed onto a dusty crate, her hand pressed against her chest, wheezing softly. I can't believe you're here," she whispered, her voice trembling. I thought you'd never come back for him." Dante knelt beside her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "I'm here now," he said quietly. "That's what matters. Nothing else." Eli sat cross-legged on the floor, gripping his superhero lunchbox. He opened it slowly, revealing a small note tucked beneath a half-eaten sandwich. The paper was folded neatly, the edges worn from being handled too many times. Dante frowned, leaning closer. "What is it?" he asked. Eli looked up, worry etched across his face. It, it came with my lunch today. I didn't open it until now." Dante took a deep breath. Something about this simple lunchbox felt wrong. It carried the weight of warning, of threat, of something that could change everything. He carefully unfolded the note. The handwriting was sharp, deliberate, and terrifying in its clarity. "Heroes die first. Bring the boy." Dandy's chest tightened. His pulse surged. He could feel every muscle in his body coil with tension. Ellie's small voice broke through the silence. "Daddy, what does it mean?" Dante swallowed hard. He wanted to answer, to comfort the boy, but the truth was heavier than any lie. It means they know he exists. It means danger is closer than we think, and I can't protect him from everything. But I will try. "You're safe for now," he said instead. "But we can't stay here." Maya clutched his arm weakly. "Dante, what do we do? I'm too sick to run, too weak to fight." He looked into her eyes, searching for hope in the shadows of fear. "You rest," he said. "Eli and we handle this. I promise you, I will protect him. I won't let anything happen to your son." Ellie's eyes welled up with tears. "Are they the monsters my mom talked about?" Dante knelt to his level, trying to steady his shaking hands. "Some of them are," he said quietly. "Some are just people who've forgotten what it means to be human. But I stop them. That's what I do." The boy swallowed, looking down at the note. "You'll stop them?" Dante hesitated. The words hung in the air. Could he truly stop them? Could he finally be the man the boy believed he was? He had taken lives before, yes, but protecting, really protecting, was different. It required more than skill. It required heart. "I'll stop them," he whispered, almost to himself. "For you, Eli." The sunlight streaming through the broken windows felt brighter now, but Dante's instincts screamed that it wouldn't last. Danger waited outside, patient and cruel, and he knew that once Rico got wind of the boy's location, there would be no mercy. He rose, gathering his focus. Every shadow in the warehouse could hide a threat. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the rustling of a pigeon, the creak of the building settling, could signal an enemy approaching. Dante checked the weapons he had brought with him, stacking them near the wall. Guns, knives, anything that could save a life if the monsters returned. His mind raced with strategies, escape routes, contingencies, all while keeping one eye on Eli and the other on Maya. Eli broke the tension with a quiet question. Daddy, were you really a monster before? The words struck Dante harder than any bullet ever could. His past was filled with shadows, lives taken, deals made, blood spilled. And now, this small boy was asking the question he had tried to run from for years. Dante's lips pressed into a thin line. Maybe, he admitted softly. But today, I'm not. Today, I only fight for you, for your mother, for the people I care about. Eli nodded slowly, as if the answer satisfied him. But Dante could see the fear still lingering behind the child's innocent eyes. Fear of what could come next. Fear of what monsters lurked beyond the light. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed from the warehouse entrance. A crate fell over in the far corner. Dante's body snapped into action, pulling Eli behind a stack of boxes and positioning himself between the boy and the sound. "Stay here," Dante whispered. His eyes scanned every inch of the warehouse, muscles coiled like steel springs. The door creaked. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate, confident. Whoever it was knew they had entered enemy territory. Whoever it was not afraid. Dandy's mind flashed back to Rico. The warning from the street. The note in Ellie's lunchbox. The calculated precision of the men who had attacked them before. This was all part of a larger plan. A trap. The footsteps stopped. Silence fell. The kind of silence that screamed louder than 1,000 gunshots. And then a voice, low and mocking, drifted through the shadows. "Looking for someone?" Dante's jaw tightened. He recognized it instantly. Rigo. Always with that smug, cruel tone. Always with the confidence of a man who thought he could control life and death. Dante swallowed hard, keeping his face calm for Eli, for Maya. But inside, every nerve was on fire. Every instinct screamed. Fight. Protect. Survive. Ellie's hand tightened around his lunchbox. "Daddy, they found us." Dante knelt beside him, gripping his shoulders. "Yes," he said firmly. "But I told you I stop monsters. I told you I'll protect you. And I mean it." The footsteps resumed, closer now. Rico's laugh echoed through the warehouse. It was sharp, cutting, designed to unnerve. Dante could see shadows flicker against the walls. He knew this wasn't just an intrusion. This was a message. He glanced at Maya. She was pale, exhausted, yet she held herself together, knowing that if Dante faltered, everything would crumble. Dante took a deep breath. "Eli," he whispered, "I need you to be brave. Whatever happens, don't let go of me. Understand?" Eli nodded, wide-eyed, but with a flicker of determination. "I understand." The footsteps stopped again. Silence. The warehouse felt smaller, tighter, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Every shadow could hide a gun, a knife, a man ready to strike. Dandy's hands moved over the weapons on the wall, choosing his tools with care. He didn't want to hurt anyone unnecessarily, but he had no choice. A shadow moved in the corner of his eye. Rico had arrived. Not alone. His men followed, surrounding the building like predators circling their prey. Dante's pulse surged. He had fought men before, yes. But this was different. The stakes were higher. A child. A woman he loved. His chance to redeem a life filled with mistakes. He took one last breath, steadying himself. Every step, every motion, every decision now could mean life or death. He looked at Eli, eyes filled with determination and a promise. "I will protect you, no matter what." And then he heard a whisper, soft, chilling, coming from behind one of the stacks of crates. "Heroes die first." The words hit him like ice water. Dante's eyes narrowed. The monsters weren't just outside anymore. Some of them were already inside. He tightened his grip on his weapon, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever before. The sunlight through the broken windows could not protect them. Only his strength, his wit, and his heart could. And as Rico's shadow stretched across the floor, Dante realized the real fight was just beginning. The sunlight outside had faded into a harsh, glaring brightness that made shadows seem sharper, longer, almost alive. Dante Morelli stood in the abandoned warehouse, his body coiled like a predator, eyes scanning every corner, every shadow, every flicker of movement. Rico's voice had faded for the moment, but Dante knew better than to think they were safe. The monsters weren't just outside anymore. They had infiltrated the very walls that promised temporary refuge. Eli clung to Dante's jacket, his small hands trembling but determined. His eyes, wide and trusting, never left the man he had already begun to call Daddy. Dante took a slow breath, forcing his heartbeat into a rhythm he could control. Today, the monster everyone feared, the man known for violence, for taking lives without hesitation, would have to change. He had no choice. He looked at Maya, her face pale but filled with a quiet strength. "Stay behind me," he whispered. "No matter what happens, don't move." She nodded, trusting him in a way that made the weight of responsibility almost unbearable. The warehouse door creaked. Dante froze. Footsteps, slow and deliberate. Rico's men were moving in from every entrance. He could hear them breathing, the faint shuffle of boots against concrete. "Eli," Dante whispered, crouching beside him. "Whatever happens, remember what I told you. I protect you. No one hurt you today." The boy nodded, small but brave. "I know, Daddy." Dante's chest tightened. "Daddy." The word struck him harder than any bullet ever could. He had spent years running from his past, from responsibility, from the very humanity that this small child saw in him. The first man appeared in the doorway. Dante moved before the gun could be raised. Years of training, instinct, and survival flooded his senses. He disarmed, subdued, and incapacitated with precision, but never cruelty. He couldn't afford cruelty today, only survival. Another man lunged from the side. Dante dodged, spinning, using the warehouse's narrow corridors to his advantage. He struck with force, but carefully, ensuring Eli and Maya were never in the path of danger. Each moment stretched. Time seemed suspended. The bright daylight outside contrasted the darkness closing in within the warehouse. Every sound was magnified. Every shadow seemed alive. Then, Dante heard Rico's voice, calm, cruel, echoing through the warehouse. "So, the monster finally shows his soft side." Dante's jaw tightened. Soft side. He didn't have a soft side, not for the world. But today, for Eli, for Maya, for the promise he had made, he would change. The final showdown was near. Rico stepped into the light, tall, confident, armed. Every move precise. Every glance measured. "You think you can protect him?" Rico sneered. "He's just a child. And you're nothing but a shadow of the monster you used to be." Dante's eyes met Rico's, cold and unflinching. "I'm done being a shadow," he said. "Today, I change. Not for the world. Not for power. But for them." Ellie's small voice broke through the tension. "Daddy." The word, again. It gave Dante strength he didn't know he had. Strength beyond muscle or weapon. Strength beyond fear. Today, he would fight for more than survival. He would fight for love. Rico moved first, but Dante anticipated every strike, every weapon, every calculated motion. The fight was fierce, brutal, but precise. Dante used his environment, his experience, and most importantly, his focus. He wasn't the same man he had been. He was better, stronger, determined. In a final, calculated move, Dante disarmed Rico, sending his weapon skidding across the floor. He pressed Rico against the wall, chest to chest. "You don't get him," Dante growled. "Not today. Not ever." Rico smirked, though defeated. "You're still a monster." Dante's gaze softened. "Maybe. But monsters can change. Today, I change for them." Eli ran forward, hugging Dante's legs. Tears streamed down his face. "You saved me," he whispered. Dante bent down, picking him up gently. "No," he said, voice breaking slightly. "We saved each other." Maya stepped forward, weak but proud, placing a hand on Dante's shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. for protecting him, for finally being the man you could have been all along. Dante looked down at the small boy, his son in every sense, and whispered, I promise. Nothing will ever hurt you again. Not monsters, not men, nothing. For a moment, the sunlight streaming through the broken windows felt warm and safe. The shadows, though still present, seemed less threatening. But Dante knew this was only the beginning. The world outside was full of monsters, waiting for weakness. But for today, for this moment he had changed. The monster the world feared had become a protector, a father, a man who would fight not for power, but for love. Eli looked up at him, eyes wide, trust absolute. Daddy, you really kill monsters? Dante smiled faintly, eyes softening. Yes, Eli. But only the ones that hurt people. Today, I stopped the monsters that came for us. And I'll keep stopping them as long as I have to. Ellie's small arms wrapped around Dante's neck. Maya's hand held theirs both together. In that moment, the world outside didn't matter. The monsters, the danger, the shadows, none of it mattered. Dante took a deep breath. He looked out the broken windows at the bright daylight. The city was loud, chaotic, and dangerous. But for the first time in years, he felt hope. The monster the world had feared had changed. And for Eli and Maya, he would never go back. But as Dante held them close, a distant sound reached his ears, a faint whisper carried by the wind. This isn't over. He tightened his grip, a cold realization settling in his chest. There would always be monsters. But today he had changed. Today, he had become more than the man he feared he was. The sunlight fell across their faces. The day was bright, but Dante knew shadows would always linger. The fight was far from over. Yet, for the first time, he felt ready. For the boy, for the mother, for the promise he had finally kept. And as he looked down at Eli, smiling softly despite the fear, he whispered, whatever comes next, we face it together. The world outside waited. Shadows would rise again. But inside that warehouse, in the bright daylight, Dante had changed. The monster had become a protector. The hero had arrived.